Hello, I'm going to talk to you about Star Wars today. I'm going to talk to you about what might be the least known and least respected Star Wars novel, which is really sad because it's actually pretty good. It's Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And I'm making this video because I once was in a debate, well, not really in a debate, I was in a discussion with a guy over Disney and Star Wars, and he was a Disney fan, he was a Disney guy, and so he was, unfortunately, and it's sad to say, he was against, much of the expanded universe. He was of the opinion that we just need to embrace our Lord and Savior, Disney. And I'm driving, I'm making this video hands-free, so I hope that you can hear me. I'm pretty sure you can. And he said, and I mentioned that something about the Splinter of the Mind's Eye was really good. And he said that Splinter of the Mind's Eye is like the least canonical. It's the least valid of all the Star Wars novels. And I had never heard that before. And so I read it. I read the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and you know what? I liked it, and I think it's okay. It's a good novel. I don't see any reason why it should be considered less than any other novel. And I want to point to some items of substance that are in the Splinter of the Mind's Eye in order to show how it's really good, how it's valid. Specifically, I want to talk about Princess Leia and how she describes how she first became a rebel. Princess Leia became a rebel primarily not because of politics, but because of art and free speech and free expression. As a young person on Alderaan, she noticed how the Empire was basically doing the communist thing, the fascist thing, the leftist thing of controlling free speech and censoring art and censoring artists and censoring videos and communication and methods of expression, even sculptures and anything that did or did not promote the Empire as they defined it. That was what drove Princess Leia to become a rebel. That's what opened her eyes. That's how Princess Leia describes herself in Star Wars canon. That's how she first began to realize that the Empire was evil. She didn't realize it. She didn't know what it was all about until she realized how they were trying to control and repress and censor free speech and punish people for expressing themselves. That was how Princess Leia started to become an edgy teenager who wanted to join the rebellion and fight for change. And that's quite an important tidbit, and that's not something you're gonna that maybe you don't find that anywhere else in the Star Wars universe. That is a valuable character creating moment. That's something that helps you to figure out what is the background of this character. It's still relatively young. The characters are still relatively young in their lives. They haven't really formed out the way that they have, for example, in Legacy of the Force. They haven't, or the Yuzin Vong conflict, they haven't, you have that freedom to realize that these are young people who haven't gone through as much, and so, you're building your character. And I want to now segue into a talk about Star Wars, but also a talk about politics and religion, because that's what everyone's favorite topic is: Star Wars, politics, and religion. And that's fine. That's a good thing. The Empire is a leftist government. It's a leftist society because it's a centrally controlled, collectivist, totalitarian society and belief system. The central principles of the Empire are the same central principles, in large part, of the totalitarian, the tyrannical left, the totalitarian left, the globalist left. They are acting as if they're, young reformers and freedom fighters, but they're not. They're totalitarians. They believe in a dictatorship. If you gave the left wing what it wants right now, if you gave the left wing what they want, they would ask for a dictator and a centrally controlled government and a centrally controlled society, a collectivist society. The young liberals want a dictator. They don't want a democracy. They call themselves Democrats, but they don't really believe in democracy. The only reason they call themselves Democrats anymore, or ever really, is because they believe in mob rule, a simple majority, the use of power and force instead of moral truth. You see, the difference between a republic, as in the old republic, and a democracy, as in Athenian or a basic democracy, is that in a democracy, if 51 people decide that 49 people should die, then that's what happens, because they voted on it. But in a republic, no matter what the people vote, there are certain rules that cannot be broken. That's a republic. It's a constitutional republic. So, even if, so instead of having a large number of people vote, you have them vote for senators or something who represent them. And so in Star Wars, you have this pursuit of republic. And we're not talking about Plato's republic. We're talking about the old republic. We're talking about George Lucas's republic. And I believe George Lucas had multiple goals in when he wrote this and when he created these ideas. I believe that Star Wars is a cautionary tale. It's a fairy tale. It's also a cautionary tale, because the whole point is that we don't want to lose the Republic. The Republic is good. And I think he's talking about a classical liberal or a conservative liberal republic, a free society, a society where you have freedom and liberty, where people treat each other well. You have a central code of morals or a constitution, perhaps guided by the Force or guided by some, central transcendent truth of what's right. And we live in a republic rather than a democracy where, a mere force and a majority of numbers can allow you to bully people. And that's getting really deep into the weeds. That's getting really deep into it right now. But the whole story of Star Wars is about the Republic versus the Sith. And it keeps repeating itself, this battle between the light side and the dark side, between the Republic or some sort of empire, some sort of dark side Sith empire. That's the recurring story of the entire Star Wars universe. Because Star Wars is a cautionary tale. It is an adventure. It's a space opera. It's a celebration of heroism. It's a celebration of heroic truth. And there's a lot of goodness. There's a lot of godliness. There's a lot of righteousness. There's a lot of, I'll say it, there's a lot of God's truth in Star Wars. I think a lot of things, don't represent God. The Jedi Code doesn't represent God, but the Jedi do. The heroes of the story do. I think the people who really love Star Wars and who have loved Star Wars ever since the beginning, we only have 1 or 2 generations of people who love Star Wars. Do you know that? It hasn't been that long. So we're still young. But we know, people who love Star Wars are not the same as people who love Star Trek. Star Trek is the communist ideal, you might say, in a fantasy land where there's no scarcity, where there's no need to worry about resources. As long as you have electricity, then you can have whatever you want. That's kind of a communist ideal utopia. But Star Wars, you could say, is the representation of a world that is not leftist. It's a representation of the world from a perspective that is truth, that is based on truth. That's not based on leftism. It's based on conservatism. It's based on natural law. It's based on, you could say, it's based on God. It's based on a certain selection. Maybe not all of the precepts, maybe not all of the ideas of God, maybe not all of it, but certain selected parts and pieces of biblical Christian truth, to be honest. And some of that includes the idea of a moral absolute that doesn't come from yourself, it doesn't come from people, it comes from something that's higher than you. It comes from God, it comes from the Force. It comes from maybe even a higher morality, a transcendent spiritual morality that even is better than the Force, which I would say is God, because you have to explain where the Force comes from. And I would say that Star Wars is a cautionary tale. The Jedi are a cautionary tale against heroes who have a corrupted sense of morals. They have a philosophy that is not right. They have a false gospel, or they have false doctrine. And so if you look at the Jedi, they have a lot of doctrine. And it's kind of like Luke Skywalker is, Martin Luther. Martin Luther, for all his faults, he did some good things and he did some bad things. But the good things he did, he led the Reformation. And that's true. And he set a lot of people free spiritually, and we would not have the good world, the free, the blessed world that we have right now if it were not for Martin Luther. He did some things that were very bad, and he did some things that were very good. I'm not excusing what he did that was bad. I'm saying we should not forget what he did that was good. And Luke Skywalker, he didn't really have any schism or anything like that. But what he did do is he's the rebuilder. He's the reformer. He didn't break away from the old Jedi Order. The old Jedi Order was kind of like the Roman Catholic, institutional religion. This religious organization that was really bad, was really bogged down, corrupt, really messed up. And if you go into the expanded universe, this is something that happens again and again, where the old version of the Jedi Order becomes really stagnant, becomes really corrupt. They have a lot of false doctrine, and when they're not out fighting the dark side and they get lazy, they start to fall into their vices. And the vice comes from the fact that they have a false doctrine, a central code. The Jedi Code is very flawed. There's a lot of mistakes in the Jedi Code. And you could say that George Lucas just made something up, but I don't think he did. I think George Lucas is the artist, he's the inventor, he's the maker who created Star Wars. And I think he did it on purpose. He made the Jedi have a really messed up code that nobody can live by because it's not good, it's not true, it's not right. And he set them against the Sith, who are obviously, clearly evil. Can you really give me an example of some other representation of true evil better than the Sith? The Sith could be called the best, the most accurate representation of evil in the world, when it comes to fiction anyways. We have to thank George Lucas, we have to respect George Lucas for that. He invented this. And so George Lucas it's a cautionary tale because it's about heroes who really sacrifice the truth, instead of being willing to be open-minded to follow the truth wherever it may lead towards the true good, the ultimate good, the supreme good. You have a lot of Jedi who are stagnant in their ways, and they're deliberately, specifically following something that's not true, that's not right, that's not good. That is the Jedi Code. And Papito Quinn, he's a YouTube guy. Go look at his channel, Papito Quinn. But he talks about this in depth. And it's something that we all realized. Those of us who were really die-hard Star Wars fans from childhood, we all went through this. We suffered the Jedi syndrome. We took the Jedi Code too seriously, and we started to realize how awful it is to not be able to love, to not be able to have emotions, to not be able to feel or to desire or to pursue your own life and adventures. That's not good. It's asceticism. It's ascetic. It's the idea that you have to get rid of the physical world. You have to get rid of anything that's pleasurable and nice, because pleasurable and nice things allegedly, supposedly, make you corrupt. And that's not true. That's not right. And it's something that we experienced, something we struggled with. We all did. And when Luke Skywalker is the true hero, that's why Disney. One reason why. There's many reasons why. There's a lot of reasons. But why is Disney so awful? Because their whole idea is to destroy Luke Skywalker. They hate the idea of what Luke Skywalker, as a fictional character, accomplished. You know, I know that there's no Luke Skywalker. He's not real in the real world. I get that. But that doesn't matter. Fictional characters represent something. They represent something that's deeper than the story they exist inside of. Luke Skywalker tells a story. He carries a moral. He carries a philosophy. There's a virtue of his life. There's a heroism. There's a heroism of his life that deserves to be celebrated. Story is so much more than entertainment. Entertainment is part of why we have stories, but stories are so much more important, and they carry so much more meaning. Stories come directly from God, and they have the ability to lead us directly back to God. But not all stories do that, and not all stories are good. And while I respect C.S. Lewis, and while I respect Tolkien, they are mistaken when they treat mythology and when they just take a melting pot view of stories. They don't care about clean versus unclean. They don't care about true versus false. They're not making any distinction between pagan and God, because they're attributing pagan stories, demonic stories, to God as if every single story leads to God. They do not. They don't. But some stories do lead to God, and some stories are vile. Some stories are very bad, and they lead away from God, and they're corrupted. So, and it may be a very technically well done story from a technical scientific viewpoint, or from some viewpoint of story analysis, such as, for example, the hero's journey. You can make a story that really even follows the hero's journey, but you can make it lead directly away from God. You can have a journey away from God and away from truth and away from healthiness. You can have a healthy, truthful, holy, blessed story that's going to bless you, or you can have a story that may be technically well written, very entertaining, follows the hero's path, but it's full of deception and poison, and it's just going to hurt you, and it may entertain you, you may enjoy it, you may not even realize whether or not you're being injured, but it is in fact injuring you. And I'm not gonna name names right now. I'm not gonna list them. It doesn't really matter to my video. But Star Wars the Star Wars that George Lucas created and continues to create is good, and it leads us towards God. And they called him in on the episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, because Disney was really messing up. They really messed it all up. And George Lucas was brought in because he was able to do it right. And he did do it right, and we loved it. I loved Star Wars 9. I don't like Star Wars 7, and I don't like Star Wars 8. I like Star Wars 7 more than I like Star Wars 8. I can take Star Wars 7 as a story that's not really canonical, but it's a good Star Wars story. Whereas Star Wars 9 is, it's really good. It's a good conclusion. It's like it became Star Wars. You took this story that was going off the rails and you brought it back. It's good. And we were, me and my family, we were in tears, with tears of joy at the very end. And it was, I think that for every single, and this is a really big deal for me, I believe that fictional stories have a relationship with God, and that God is the creator of all fictional stories, whether from Autobots and Transformers to Gone with the Wind, or Star Wars or Star Trek. I believe that, and maybe somehow, I believe that every story goes up and resides with God, or God is the creator of every single story, and that there is what you could call a Platonic truth. I don't believe in Plato's Republic, but I do believe in Platonic truth. There are perfect forms. There is a truth to something. There is a true version of something. And there is a truth to these things. There is a truth about Star Wars. And so it is possible for somebody who is criticizing or deconstructing a story. It could be any story. It could be High School Musical. Not that I'm a fan, but you could be deconstructing it, and you could be wrong. You could be mistaken when you deconstruct something that is good, because it doesn't need to be deconstructed, because it's already good. The purpose of deconstruction is supposed to be reconstruction. But there's a flaw. There's a fundamental flaw in the very idea of deconstruction itself. The fundamental flaw is a presumption. It's a pre-assumption. It's a pre-assumption that happy-go-lucky, lackadaisical, campy, happy, family-friendly, golden age Superman is somehow bad. That somehow, for example, the golden age of comic books is too hokey and is wrong. What if the golden age of comic books really is the golden age of comic books? What if it's really actually awesome? And what if you have been poisoned by your cynical, hollow, modern, or postmodern, or postmodern viewpoint? Have you considered that you might be postmodern, and that's why you're so nihilistic and cynical, and that's why you want to deconstruct everything, to relentlessly criticize everything that exists, just like Karl Marx said people should, which is a bad thing to do, by the way. It's a very stupid thing. It's also a bad thing. It's also a wasteful thing, and it's worse than that, but I don't need to get into it. That's not the topic. That's not the topic today. But there is a truth. There is a universal, final, deep, profound truth when it comes to the right and wrong, and the philosophy and the morals, and the what should have happened, and the good and the bad storytelling. You can analyze, was this good storytelling or bad storytelling? Not just based on some technical, mathematical aspect of how the story was written and put together, but also based on whether or not it's a happy ending. How did you treat the characters? Did this character die? If they did, then how did they die? Maybe that was good, maybe that was bad. What did the character do that was bad? You want an example of bad storytelling? When, for example, in I forget, The Force Unleashed. It's called The Force Unleashed. That video game about Darth Vader's secret apprentice. I think that's a stupid storyline anyway. It's a very stupid storyline. It's just a Pollyanna character who's just so powerful in the Force. It's more like a theoretical experiment in, what if. It's not really a good story. It's just a Pollyanna, let's just make him stronger and stronger and stronger just to see what would happen. But here's a bad piece of storytelling. When you have that Jedi, Ram Koda, and you find him in a bar drinking his brains out, just drinking his sorrows away. That was bad storytelling. That was a brown note. That was something there's no need for that. You're not deconstructing anything. You're just trying to destroy because you're hateful. It's hateful. It's a hateful attempt at revenge. It's a pitiful, hateful attempt at revenge. Revenge against some idea. It's destructive. It's not productive. It's not good. It's not good storytelling. It's just meant to break your heart for no good reason, and to defile you and to demoralize you, the viewer, as well as to literally poop on the issue in question, which is the Jedi. You're trying to poop on the Jedi. You're trying to just tarnish the Jedi, to spit on them, really. How you treat your characters matters. You can be immoral as... Yeah, we're still recording, sorry. You can be immoral as well as a bad storyteller, a poor, lame storyteller, based on whether or not you treat your characters good or bad. Do you take the princess and do you break the cutie? Do you have a relentless desire to destroy every romance relationship just because it's doing too well? They're doing too well. They're too happy together. We need to destroy them and break them apart? Is that the way that you write your stories? I have a really cool guy here. Let's kill him for dramatic effect. Do you have a need to make blood sacrifices inside of your story? That's a thing. A lot of times, whether it's some form of abuse or violence or death of a character or something, you can have a good death. You can have a character have a good death, a meaningful, a righteous death, a good death, a noble death, and a righteous, good, profound storytelling. Or you can just write your stories in such a way as to defile and to do harm to the story. To bloody the canvas. That's how I view it. Disney didn't paint on the canvas of Star Wars. They bought the canvas from George Lucas, and then they just took revenge on it. They took revenge on him by defacing the art. They got his art, they bought it from him, and then they defaced it as revenge, as out of spite. It's a spiteful revenge because he wouldn't sell it to them earlier, so they bloodied the canvas to show them that they could. They ripped it up and destroyed it, and they put blood all over it instead of paint in order to show that they could and to get revenge and to attack the people who love Star Wars, who believe in the righteous and godly lessons that George Lucas taught us using Star Wars. Because Star Wars stands for something righteous, godly, wise, profound, and true. And solid, something substantial. And so they, social justice warrior, leftist, Marxist, demonic Disney, corrupt, communist-loving Disney, and even Walt Disney himself was involved in some very perverted, very bad things. So it's not like it's a surprise, I guess. But, and all the magic and witchcraft, I'm aware that the Force users are using the Force, but it's not the same as magic and witchcraft. It's not presented as magic and witchcraft. They're attempting to attack that which is right, good, true, and beautiful. Faith, hope, and love. They want to attack that. That's why they want to destroy masculinity, and they want to destroy male characters, and they don't want to have any strong male characters because they don't really believe in equality or freedom. They're just trying to attack. The left is going to turn against women just as soon as they're finished destroying men. Just as soon as the left is done destroying men, they will turn against and betray women and oppress women just as much as they are currently oppressing men. And both men and women will be equally oppressed. Won't that be a great age of Gemini? Just saying. So, Star Wars is a cautionary tale against heroes who believe lies. Don't believe false doctrine. You have to seek the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. 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 You need to pursue the truth. That means you have to be willing to question the doctrine of some, centralized institution that claims to be the cat's meow, that claims to be the true, universal, real, genuine, bona fide, institution. What if they're wrong? What if they're foolish? What if they made a mistake? And I think that the Knights of the Old Republic video game series does a real good job of putting that question forward. But Luke Skywalker really is amazing because he is the reformer. He rebuilds the Jedi Order, and he doesn't have any of that old baggage. It's really a good thing that all of that information was lost, because it resulted in losing, the catechism. You don't have the catechism anymore. You just have the Bible. You don't even have very much of the Bible, which is maybe not a good thing. But instead of focusing on pursuing some extraneous, off-topic pet project in the Jedi Code of the old-fashioned Jedi Order, now you have individual Jedi who are allowed to love, who are allowed to be human, who are allowed to be free and to do what's right and to follow the Force. Instead of following the Jedi Council, we're following the Force, and we're following the light side, and we're following what's right and what's good and what's true and what's heroic and what's beautiful and what's godly and what's righteous and what's pure. And that's something that Qui-Gon Jinn is able to do. That's why we love him. It's something that Luke Skywalker is able to do. And you're not stealing children when they're babies. God, That's something I have to say about Star Wars. And where did this all come from? Princess Leia has some really interesting foundational background in Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And I once had a discussion with a person who really was just trying to support Disney no matter what, even if he has to attack every single expanded universe title that exists, including Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Well, Splinter of the Mind's Eye is no less canonical than anything else. It's actually really good. And it's about a young Luke and a young Princess Leia who are fresh and green, and they haven't been through very much. And they're just young rebels, and he's not even a full-fledged Jedi. And they've been through... I don't think they've even been to Bespin yet. They've just been to A New Hope, and that's it. And Princess Leia, aside from the fact that at that point in her life she didn't know how to swim, which is kind of interesting, but she describes, why did Princess Leia become a rebel? Because totalitarians, leftist totalitarians, the Empire is leftist. They are fascist. Fascism is a form of leftism. Fascism is National Socialism. It's socialism that is nationalistic. And so yes, the fascist empire of Star Wars is a socialist, centrally controlled, collectivist, authoritarian society. And yes, the government does control industry. It does control who it can sell. They'll shut down your business if they don't like you. They decide who sells what. They have the final word. If the word comes down from on high, from the Emperor or from Darth Vader or from Grand Moff Tarkin or some captain, then they control everything about the economy. The only reason they're not controlling the economy in any particular place is because they don't care or they're not aware of it. So it really is, if you actually go into it, the way they control big industry and worlds like Iriadu and Corellia, that they have, big industry, or Senar fleet systems, big industry really works for the Empire. And that's what an Arakid, it's an industrial complex. And that really is a government-controlled economy. It's a regulated economy. And so there is free market so long as the government is getting what it's want, but it is a controlled economy. And of course, you don't have personal liberty and personal rights because it's a leftist, totalitarian society. But what really woke Princess Leia up, how did she first realize, she didn't know, before that, she didn't know that the Empire was evil. When did she first realize that the Empire was evil? Was when it was censoring and canceling people because of art and free expression, whether it's a sculptor or a movie maker or a musician, and they were being censored, or authors. And that was what really bothered her. That's what woke her up to the reality of the evil of the Empire. That's how she became a young rebel and started to work in the Senate to work for change and eventually joined the Rebel Alliance. And that's something that you get from Splinter of the Mind's Eye. It's the first time it was mentioned, and that's really cool, and that's really valuable. So, and that's a lesson today, the left versus the right. The left wing is a totalitarian belief. And if you head, left is a direction, north is a direction, south is a direction, east is a direction, west is a direction. Left and right are directions. If you head in the direction of right, you will head right. If you head in the direction of left, you will head left. Left is always to the left. Right is always to the right. If you are heading towards the right, you will always achieve right-hand goals. If you are heading towards the left, you will always achieve left-hand goals. Leftism always leads to communism, because if you're pointing left, communism is straight ahead. Socialism is straight ahead of you. Socialism, if you aim your compass to the left, if you set your compass to face left, you are heading straight towards communism, because communism is straight ahead, or fascism, totalitarianism, socialist collectivism, totalitarian. And that could be religious collectivism, such as Roman Catholicism, or it could be political collectivism, such as the Empire of Star Wars, or Nazi Germany, or Communist Russia. And that's, so if you see the signs coming, if it looks like a duck, if it sounds like a duck, if it feels like a duck, if it smells like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, then maybe it really is a duck, my friends. So, God bless you. In His name, may the Force be with you. And renounce altruism. Renounce the corrupted version of the Jedi Code. And follow God. Follow the light side. Follow in Him. Follow the Force in a true way. Like a true Jedi. Not like an old-fashioned Jedi. Have a great day. God bless you. God bless me. God bless America. And God bless your country if you're somewhere else. Have a good day.